Life is precious. I think we would all agree. But often we find that we take the very things that we do every day in life for granted until something happens in a blink of an eye. Hello, I'm Tom Russo, and this is In a Blink of an Eye, where we discuss stories from ordinary people whose lives are changed in an instant and how they overcame through faith, courage, and determination. Join me on this podcast for uplifting stories of how people face various challenges and learn to not only survive, but thrive. In a Blink of an Eye is sponsored by TradingCardsMarketplace.com. Discover, connect, and collect. That's TradingCardsMarketplace.com. Now, I have got the distinct privilege and honor to welcome my good friend Tanaka Dixon to the program today. Tanaka, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I got to tell you about this lady, ladies and gentlemen. When I started my teaching career, I was teaching in a small town called Fulshear, Texas, and I was at a middle school, Roberts Middle School, and I was hired as a long-term sub, so I was kind of feeling my oats to see if it was something I wanted to do, and I got the great blessing from God to work with this lady who inspired me in so many ways. She is one of the most magnificent teachers that any student who ever had her would be able to tell you. She is a true blessing to all the children in that area. And I just absolutely adored her interactions with the children and the way that she taught and handled a classroom. And I'm doing too much talking. I need to let you talk. Tika, tell me a little bit about kind of where you grew up and kind of your road to become a teacher, first of all.
Mhm. Well, I grew up in Fulshear, Texas, where we met. When I grew up, it wasn't nothing but dirt roads, cows, chickens, and horses.
And
But
it
if you
still
would
has the
see,
cows, chickens, and horses. I know that.
if you see it now, we have a few, but we sit in traffic now. There was no traffic.
Right.
So I grew up here in Fulshear, Texas. I graduated from the Lamar School, so it was exciting to be able to come back and teach for Lamar. Um, my parents, they were born and raised out here in Fulshear, Texas. Family, the street is named after us, Dixon Road. Um, so it's just awesome just to see the growth out here. So teaching, I felt like it was just in my heart to do. Like I said, I mean, it's just touching kids' lives and being able to shape and mold our future. What better thing can you ask for?
Well, and I know when we were speaking off camera, you mentioned that your mother was kind of an inspiration from a teaching standpoint. You said that she taught Sunday school, and you could see that passion in her as she taught the children in Sunday school.
Yes.
And so that had to be a big impact. And you even inclinated to me that she kind of wanted to be a teacher too,
hmm
but she
She
never
could
really
have.
got to follow that dream. Tell me a little bit
Yes.
about that.
She could have. I mean, I seen it. I mean, going up there before on that Saturday, loading us in the car, and she was setting up her room, putting her bulletin boards up in the classroom, and getting ready for the kids that Sunday morning. Just the excitement there. She would have been an amazing teacher because I saw it all in her, and just me going to see her set up her Sunday school room. And when I told her me going to college and would it even be a thing, because I didn't even think we had money to go. So that's how I knew I knew we didn't have money to go because she was a custodian. Custodians didn't make very much. My dad was in the rice fields and, he was lucky enough to get a job for Texaco. I mean, which was a true blessing, not having any education, any experience in the oil field. He was lucky and blessed to have that. So going to college, we still didn't have like a college fund. So I was just like, how am I going to do this? So I just applied. Yes, I came out with a whole bunch of loans, but I got my degree.
But you did it.
I did it. And you
And
know what, Mr. Russo? I did it, and when I started my career being in those schools, like you said, some of the hardest schools, after COVID hit, I was trying to pay my loans back, and I was calling them to pay my loans back, and they were like, "Those loans, that $143,000 is gone. Thank you for your service."
Oh, what and talk about a blessing. Talk about a blessing. Now, I gotta ask you about something you told me that I didn't know about you. You told me this here a few minutes ago. Now, you said you started out as looking towards nursing.
I did.
Oh,
It
now,
must have been
now
the
you told
scrubs.
me something funny about that. Now I gotta hear that on camera here. Tell me
Oh,
about that. What happened with that?
I really think it was the scrubs and the little cute shoes, the comfy shoes. That's what I really, it was the cute little scrubs with the little pictures on them. I think that's what it was. But when we had to do a course and we had to go watch a live open heart surgery, I was done.
Ugh.
I couldn't eat ketchup or eat spaghetti for a long time. So
So
I was just
so
like,
ixnay on the blood there, right?
oh, X. Yes,
Well,
exactly. They were like,
you know
yeah.
what? Nursing's loss was our children's gain. That's what I'm going to say. And another thing that I know you do that has always drawn me towards you as a great person is
Mhm.
your belief in God and your faith and your ministry that you do. Tell me a little bit about that.
I mean, I was raised up in the church. My dad loved to sing. My mom was a Sunday school teacher. He was a deacon in the church. So, going to church, we were always something within the church, and they got very active within the church. So, and God has just been, we were firm believers in God. It was just like, we knew, like I said, I didn't think we had a lot of money. People thought we did, but I was just like, my parents just made it look good because they trusted and they knew God was going to make a way and God was going to take care of us. So, and he did. So, um, it was just the foundation growing up there. And with ministry, like I said, I started out singing with my dad. He loved to sing. So we were going to musicals and singing and all of that. And then I built with some of my other in the church. We didn't have a youth ministry out at the church. I went to church, started out church Greater Zachary right here in Fulshire. Then I went to Brookshire because my first job was in Brookshire. And the church there, they didn't have a youth ministry. So my first job teaching was in Brookshire. So I got to know a lot of the kids. They came to the church. I mean, I could have choir rehearsal in my class because all the kids, we were going from school to church together. And, after God said, when God says, I want you to preach the gospel, I was like, do what? So took me a while to accept that. I was like, and women in ministry is just like, I was just like, I don't know, just let me sing and I'll do that.
Well, you said something there that struck a chord with me. You said that God kind of talked to you about going into the ministry, and I am a firm believer that God and Jesus talk to us all the time.
Hmm.
Sometimes we're too dense to listen, but He
Yes.
talks to us all the time.
Yes. Hmm.
And I know people sometimes look at me funny that I had left banking and I felt God called me to become a teacher. And I
Hmm.
know some people looked at me like, I was making a third of what I made as a banker,
Exactly.
but
Yes.
but I felt God had called me there, and people looked at me funny like I was crazy,
I
and
bet.
but I was doing what I felt God had told me to do, and I'm glad I
Yes.
did because I got great experiences meeting great leaders like you, and that was so important. And then I had a second epiphany in my life from
Hmm.
God, the same
Uh-huh.
calling like you're talking about to do
Yes.
this very podcast, to do
Yes.
this podcast so that I can share the message. And we talked about this off camera too, that any place where two people are talking about God, that's
Yes.
church.
That
That's
is.
church.
And he's here. He's
And
here.
he's here right now with
Yes.
us. You
Yes.
mentioned something to me, a Bible passage, Jeremiah 29:11.
Hmm.
Tell me that. Tell me that passage.
He he has a plan. The plan is not to harm you, it's not to hurt you, it's to prosper you and give you hope and a future. So that just means if he has a plan, I don't care what we've done in our lives, the plan has already been established. God has a plan, that means we have a purpose.
And we have
Uh,
to trust it.
yes,
We
you
have
have
to
to trust
trust
him.
it.
Yes,
Amen. Yes, we have to. We absolutely have to.
you
Now,
have. Yeah, you have to, because I mean, even me not knowing, like with college, and I went to Texas Lutheran for 1 year in Seguin, and then came back to Houston. But those are both private colleges, and they were very expensive. When I
expensive.
left them, they were 165,000. You're talking about a little girl, mom's a custodian, dad didn't make that much money, but I got my degree. It had to be it was trusting the process. I don't
Right.
know how I'm going to pay these loans. I don't know, but obviously he opened the door for me to be there. Obviously so you just got to trust the plan.
So I have to ask you because I passed all four cores, so I could teach English, math, history, or science, right?
Uh-huh. Mhm.
And I admired and loved your ELA class, but there
Mhm.
is no way I ever wanted to teach ELA. I couldn't even hold a candle to how you do it with those kids. How did you choose that, young lady? How did you choose that? Because that to me is got to be the most difficult one to teach.
It
That's just
is.
my opinion.
It is. Well, I started off in elementary, 4th grade. And I didn't think that I would ever leave 4th grade. It was just my thing. I was like, no, 4th grade. I was there for like 11 years. I'm
That was
not
your
leaving
jam.
4th grade. Yes. And I started off self-contained, where I did have to teach all the subject areas, but just math was just not you were a banker. I just, no, just let me count my money and subtract my money. That's about it. Other than that, I just could not. I didn't like social studies.
See,
So
I
I
love
was,
that's what I wound up teaching most of. I
yes,
did
you
teach
did.
math
You
1 year.
did.
Yeah.
But with ELAR, it was just reading, because I struggled with reading myself as a kid. In elementary school, they would tell my mom about something with her comprehension. But my mom, she was just like, nothing's wrong with her. She just needs to read more. So nothing's wrong with her. For recess, she would say she didn't need to go out there and play. Let her read a book so she can play when she gets home. So as I got into the educational, I said, if I was tested, I really think I would have had a deficit in reading comprehension.
It's interesting that you say that because I have long been an opponent of labels, and I seem to remember even in your
Hmm.
class that you didn't let kids make excuses, and that's one
Right,
of the things I loved about you.
right.
And everybody's got their own set of
Hmm.
circumstances, and I'm not
Hmm.
saying that there aren't people out there who struggle with things or whatever. But if all we do is pander to that, they never
Yes,
learn. They
yes.
never learn. And one of the things that I learned from you is within the scope of that child's capabilities,
Hmm.
right? Expect the most of it.
Yes,
Expect the
yes.
most from them. Because if you expect the least, that's all you'll ever get.
That's all you're going to get.
And I learned that from you. I learned that from you because I saw that every student was important to you, and every student, I'm about to cry because this was so important to me, but every student was important to you. And I tried to emulate that and I hope I did you good service than what I did. Every student was important, and every student had a story, and every student had a different way of learning,
Hmm.
but I
Hmm.
pushed every one of them to their limit.
Yes, yes.
Another thing I took from you, I gotta share this story. You make at least you did when I was with you. You made all the students keep a journal,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
I love that. I
Yeah,
made my students keep a journal every year, even when the district was telling me, we don't do that. We do everything online. I'm like, no, my students are going to write.
yeah.
My students are going to
Exactly.
write, and they're going to
Uh-huh.
learn how to write, and they're going to learn how to read. And I'm not going
Yes,
to have it any other way. That's how my kids are going to do it. And so,
yes.
all of my kids, they at first they would complain, but by the end of the year,
Oh
they were
yeah.
loving it. they were loving it, because they
Yes.
knew the stuff now. Because you
Mhm.
just remember so much more when you write it down. And I remember you
Exactly.
doing that in your classes, and I took that to heart. I wanted to share that with you. I did
Ah,
that in all my classes, even my math class. When I taught my math class, I made them do it. I made them write paragraphs about what we were doing in math. And,
hey.
and so it helped them in all their other
Yeah.
classes. And so that's
Mhm.
that's that's awesome.
Yes.
And I love your spirit, and I love your honesty, and it shines through in everything that you do, but it especially did and still does in the classroom. And that you were a big inspiration into why I decided to become a teacher. And you just were so wonderful. And I loved. I remember reading that the book about the wolf, and what was the name of that book?
Was it
The
Touching
young
Spirit Bear?
man that went off like the justice system. He was
Touching
out.
Spirit Bear?
Oh yes, touching spirit. But that
Yeah.
I remember that. And you and I having talks about that book and how you taught. I loved it. I loved it.
Yes.
All right. Now let's get to your blink of an eye moment, which is the real reason for my podcast. I could talk to you like this all day, but I know that you had an event that happened pretty early on in your life, and
Mhm.
it was tough.
Yeah.
It was and in retrospect, I know it probably seems like a trivial event that caused it,
Mhm. Mhm.
but yet at the time it was huge.
Yes. Yeah.
Take us back to 10th grade and tell the story about what happened.
It was just, being in a relationship and you think, oh, you're so in love and you're just, this is the guy, this is who and you don't can't live life without them and don't want to live life without them. And because that was where I was at that point, I felt like. And, and talking to the guy one day, he says, well, I don't think we're going to talk anymore. And from that moment, I just didn't know what to think. I thought, what do you mean we're not going to talk anymore? We started talking since like sixth grade. What do
You
you
were
mean we're
crushed.
not? Yes, and what do you mean we're not going to talk anymore? How does that happen? And so I was just crushed. So in my mind at that time, I didn't know. Just so many things were going on in my mind. I don't know if it was just, oh, I'm going to get him back or I'm going to get some attention. So I ended up taking several Tylenol and several sleeping pills, and
You were
passed out
wanting
on
to end
my,
your life. You were wanting
yes.
to end your life. It crushed your spirit enough to make you feel like you wanted to end your life.
Yes, that I just, what was I going to do? And then thinking about what people would say, oh, y'all are not together anymore. What happened? And just all of that I didn't want to deal with, didn't want to hear because I didn't even know. I was just like, I don't know what caused this situation. So I just felt like that was the best thing to do. And then, when I felt like, okay, when he finds out, he's going to feel awful, and just,
It was almost like a
yeah,
spite thing. It was almost like a
yes,
I'm
yes.
gonna show him. I'm gonna
And
show
not
this.
knowing that, it could have been a whole different situation if I was telling you earlier, if I was on the sofa in our home, and when my parents came back, I remember them being at the store or whatever. When they came back, they were like, Tanika, go to your room and lay down. I didn't respond. Tanika, go to your room. And they were like, you would not respond. So they tried to get me up and then they knew something was wrong. So they rushed me to the emergency room and then they found out what had happened with the pills that I had taken and all of that. And I knew it would have been a difference if I was in my bedroom, as I was saying, they would have just peeped in there and said, oh, she's sleeping. She'll wake up later. I probably wouldn't have never woken up with the amount of sleeping pills and the Tylenol that I had taken.
And that was God's hand. I mean, that
Yes,
was God's hand leaving you on that sofa and letting your parents get you the help that you needed.
yes,
And thank God they did, because you've had a whole generation of students that you've helped since then.
yes,
And I say that laughingly, but I know that was a struggle for you. I
yes,
know that was a painful time. And like I said, you look back on it and it's, I'm a guy. It was over a silly guy. I mean,
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
amazing what our young people go through, and
Mhm.
we don't even think about it sometimes,
Yes.
because that was the
Yes.
whole world to you.
Mhm.
That moment in time,
In that moment.
it was everything to you,
Yes.
and so much so that you were willing to end it all.
Yeah. Yeah.
And and tell me a little bit, and I know it's hard because it's a hard memory, but tell
Mhm.
me a little bit about your struggle to get through that after you got out of the hospital and got back on your feet. How did you face things, and did faith have anything to do with your recovery along the way?
It made me stronger for sure because, when I from the hospital, they're not gonna once when they think that you tried to take your life, they're not gonna they didn't just send me home. So like I had to go into a psychiatric facility, and within there, the counselors and I was still angry at the beginning. They were showing those little pictures of these little blobs, and what do you see? A blob. I'm like, what do you
Blah.
mean? What do I see? It's just an
You
and it was
still
easy,
have your
and they
great wit, by the way. I love it.
they could tell a lot by how you respond. And I learned, and they were like, no, how do you take this? So with the therapy sessions, and I just from that point on, I looked at life just in a different sense. It's not that was one of the at my younger age that I went through and had to, but I learned a lot from it and um how to communicate. In my family, they came for sessions just as how can we help, why didn't we, and it was just like I said, it wasn't anything that I was going through. It was just that spur of the moment, that blink of the moment right there. We're not dating anymore, it's over. And so they thought, well, what did we do wrong, where did we miss the signs, you know
So it was also that strength of family. I know,
yes,
and one of the things that I love in your story, and in talking to you throughout the years, is family is very important to you. And
yes,
I I uh I love and sense that was also a big part of it, was that your
yes,
family wasn't accusatory, wasn't, they helped you through it,
yes,
and
yes,
your faith. So you had
mm-hmm,
a twofold. You had your faith and you had your family to help you through this situation and get back on your feet.
yes,
What would be advice that you would tell young people that may watch this? Who knows? And you
mm-hmm,
never know who watches what, right? What would be advice that you would tell them when they're faced with something to them, and it could be not making the volleyball team, it could be
mm-hmm,
their boyfriend looked at them funny, it could be
mm-hmm,
somebody made fun of them in class because of the way they looked or the way they dressed. It's very important to them at that young age.
yes.
It crushes them. What would be your advice to help overcome that?
To me, I would say there's nothing that you go through in this life that is that bad, that is that awful, that you cannot overcome. There's
Amen.
nothing that you go through in this life that we fall. We fall several times.
All the time.
Things are going to take us for a loop. Like I said, and I think I posted this a while back. I thought the fire would have consumed me, but it did not. The fire made me stronger. And I didn't even come out of the fire smelling like smoke because God didn't allow that to happen. Didn't
Right.
smell like smoke, wasn't charred, wasn't burned. I don't care what you go through. And you're going to go through some things because God says you're going to go through the fiery trials. He already said that. So you're going to go, but nothing is worth you taking your life or taking you. Nothing is worth that.
No,
God
absolutely not.
gave you this life. God created you to be who you are. He created you to be here with a purpose. Nothing is that devastating to where God would want you to remove yourself when he has a plan and a purpose for you.
So well said, and exactly a big part of the reason why I wanted you to be a guest. Right there. That spirit and that just seeing you just warms my heart. I haven't physically seen you in many years, and
Yes.
this just absolutely warms my heart seeing you today. It's such an honor to get to share this story because I know
Yeah.
that's a painful part of your life. I
Yeah.
know that and I appreciate that. And I honor that because the whole purpose of this podcast is to help people that are struggling, you
Yeah.
know, because everybody has crossroads. Everybody
Yes.
has stuff that
Yes.
happens that
Yeah.
we have to pick ourselves up and
Mhm.
brush ourselves off. And
Yeah.
you were lucky you had that family structure and that faith structure.
Yeah.
There's so many people that don't have either, or maybe one or the other. And
Yes.
so it was God's blessing that you had both. And I had both when I've gone through mine too.
Yeah.
I had my wonderful family, and I also had my faith, and
Mhm.
so I understand living it firsthand how
Yes.
important that is,
Yes.
and what a blessing and how it is. So
Yes.
so now we fast forward, we go through that. You go through the nursing school, you don't do that, then you go on and become a teacher.
Yep.
And how many years have you been teaching now?
This is year 27.
And you only look 25. So how is that? How is that? I want to
When you
know.
love
You
what
got
you
to tell.
do.
You got to tell me your secret to looking young. I got to know that.
Well, hey, look, I just turned 50, so I'm just like, Lord. But when you
I
love what
remember
you
50. I remember 50.
Oh my goodness, but when people say when you love what you do, you're really not working. Because when I first started, I said, give me 5 years and I'm out of here. 5 years and I'm out. That 5 years turned into 27. I mean, I just knew. I mean, my first job was Whataburger. I think I lasted maybe 2 weeks. Uh,
Not a lot of passion for flipping burgers.
oh no. So year
My first
26.
job was Chick-fil-A. So I used to dress up in the big, they had a big chicken suit. It was before the cow. It was a chicken called Doodles, and I used to dress up as Doodles the chicken. So not a lot of passion for that either.
Yes.
But
So, I
so
mean, 27.
now are you still at Roberts? Are you still teaching at
I
Roberts?
am at Roberts, 2 years. Well, I already said I was going to retire in my classroom. Don't ask me. I'm not coming out of my classroom. This is it. But how God works. And again, you got to trust because 2 years ago, my principal came and he was just like, oh, we got an instructional coach position. Are you going to apply for it? Nope. Sure not. I'm not.
Right.
Well, why not? Nope. So
Because you
then
like what you're doing.
exactly. So then he comes back and I'm sitting in a meeting. He comes to the door. Can you come? So I'm like, what does he want now? So we're walking to the office and I'm like, nobody's saying anything. And I'm like, what? Did I do something? Did somebody? So he says, look, I need an emergent bilingual specialist. I said, well, good. You want me to help you find somebody? I mean, what?
We'll put our resources together. We'll find somebody.
He was like, no, I'm looking at them. I'm looking like, you
So
looking at them? Where are they?
somebody behind me.
So I said, let me go. And first thing I went to one of my real good teacher friends and I was just like, my principal Mr. Little just asked me, about emergent bilingual. She was just like, yeah. And she was just like, you need to apply. You need to go for it. I was like, are you kidding me? What? And then he was like, well, we got to go through the formalities and we got to interview you. I said, interview? I don't know. I hadn't interviewed 20 years. I mean, so I was like, God, first thing I went is like, God, what would you have me to do? Because the summer before that, I had finished up some coursework on um instructional just leadership and just consulting. And I finished the whole consulting thing, an educational consultant and how to work with people. And so I was like, okay, God, is this you telling me to walk in here? So now you not only work with kids, but you work with the teachers as well. And so God was just like, trust the process. So I went through the interview and waited for HR and got contacted and emergent bilingual specialist. And I was just like, I don't know anything but English. So, and Fulshire is not just, okay, we got a couple kids that speak Spanish anymore. Fulshire is very diverse now. So this is my second year as an emergent bilingual specialist, just being their advocate, and kids that are coming from different countries. And so, I mean, I have kids that speak French, that's Mandarin, simplified Chinese,
Vous
Urdu.
parlez français? Oui.
I wish I could. My handy dandy
Je parle
translator,
un peu. Je
but
parle un peu. Very little.
but so being my second year to be able to work with teachers at this level and making sure these kids are feeling comfortable, and I just said, God, you did it again. God, you did it again, because now I'm at a different level that I never thought that I would even step out into. And working with teachers and how to support these emergent bilingual students in the classroom, I'm just amazed.
Well, I got to tell you, it's amazing, your story. And again, I can't thank you enough for the influence you had on me, and subsequently, I think that helped touch the lives of my students and my athletes that I coached,
That's
and
true.
I owe a lot to you and all the great teachers that I worked with there. But you were just one that I just really just focused on their style, and I loved your style, and I knew your students loved you. um, it's amazing, but our 30 minutes is already up, if you can believe
Huh?
that. I told you were all nervous about this, and I told you it would just go just like that.
Yes.
I'm going to wrap it up. I want you to hang on, though. Okay, so
Okay.
let me wrap it up here. If you like hearing uplifting stories of overcoming challenges in life, click the like and subscribe button. It's somewhere over here. I don't know where it is, but click it. Please do that. That helps me grow my audience. Perhaps you have a story of your own to share: an accident, a sudden loss, PTSD, alcohol, drug abuse, a natural disaster, illnesses, and you would like to share that journey of overcoming. Please contact me at the email shown below. Now, I know it's going to be there because I'm going to put it there for consideration for a future podcast interview. I rely on viewers like you to share their stories. Thanks again to TradingCardsMarketplace.com for their continued sponsorship to bring all these great stories to all of us. Marketplace.com. Discover, connect, and collect. Awaken the collector in you. I want to thank everyone out there, especially my family, our military veterans, our first responders who put their lives on the line every day. And of course, we can't forget our teachers and our medical professionals who all make the world better, one person at a time. And I learned a lot of that from this lady. Most of all, thank God for all the blessings in our world. We just
Yes.
need to make sure that we concentrate on those blessings every single day. Until next time, my friends, carpe diem, seize the day. Thank you so much.